XRP holders who've been in the game for a decade or more, those who firmly believed we'd one day live in a world where nearly every financial asset is represented on a blockchain. Well, it turns out they were absolutely right. We've reached the point where that bold vision is becoming reality, and it's finally being acknowledged. I've been talking about this since the very beginning. To me, it was crystal clear from the start. The XRP Ledger, with its built-in decentralized exchange and the ability to tokenize any asset imaginable, laid the groundwork for exactly this kind of future. Even if the only reason for this shift was better efficiency, that alone would have been enough to spark the move to blockchain-based assets. Of course, this didn't happen overnight. The space had to mature. Investor trust had to grow. People needed to see that blockchains could stick around without being compromised. That's one of the biggest strengths of the XRP Ledger: time. It's something you simply can't code into a protocol. Think about it. XRP and its ledger have been live and running smoothly for over 10 years. Hackers have been trying to bring it down since day one, and none have succeeded. That's why, if you're serious about tokenizing real-world assets, you're naturally going to consider the most battle-tested chains first. Newer chains may look good on paper, maybe even offer some improved specs, but at the end of the day, security is king. The XRP Ledger just works. And we're now stepping into the very world we've been predicting for years. A world where financial assets, across the board, are becoming tokenized. And for those of us who saw it coming, this is the moment of validation. It's happening. All of this also reinforces why XRP and its ledger have long-term staying power. That's what makes this relevant to you if you're an XRP investor. To bring it all together, I've got some exciting news to back this up, starting with a major development reported by CoinDesk. The XRP Ledger has been selected to tokenize $130 million in agribusiness credit, as Brazil ramps up its adoption of real-world asset, RWA, tokenization. Here's another one for you. Ripple's RLUSD has already taken the top spot among stablecoins according to Bluechip, earning an impressive A rating, and that's straight out of the gate. Keep in mind, RLUSD only launched in December of last year. It's barely been live for a little over 6 months. What this shows is that trust and credibility still go a long way in the crypto space. And honestly, this gives me even more confidence that RLUSD is on track for real success. Next up, this one's pretty cool. Japan has just introduced a way for people to earn XRP without having to spend a single yen. But before I go any further, let me make something clear. I'm not a financial professional. I don't have a background in finance, and nothing I say should ever be taken as financial advice. Please don't buy or sell anything based on what you hear from me. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who enjoys talking about this stuff on YouTube. This is purely a passion project, something I do for fun. Let's dive into the first big story. A Brazilian securitization company called Vert has officially launched a new private credit platform built on blockchain, and they chose the XRP Ledger to power it. Their debut issuance? A massive 700 million Brazilian reals, about $130 million USD, in the form of an agribusiness receivable certificate, also known as a CRA. For context, CRAs are financial tools used to package expected cash flows from Brazil's agriculture sector. What makes this notable is that this entire issuance was executed on-chain, using the XRP Ledger in combination with its EVM-compatible cytokine. This setup enabled real-time visibility into the flow of funds, loan activities, and payment events. Now, quick but crucial point. This wouldn't even be possible without XRP. That's because of how the XRP Ledger is built. Every time a transaction takes place, anything that's tokenized on the ledger, a tiny amount of XRP is automatically destroyed. It's not a fee that goes to anyone. It's burned, permanently reducing the total supply. That's built into the protocol itself. So the XRP token isn't just optional, it's fundamental to how this system operates. So, if companies are going to keep using the XRP Ledger to tokenize real-world assets, and it sure looks like they are, doesn't it stand to reason that XRP, the asset, will become more and more attractive to investors looking to gain exposure to crypto? I mean, it's logical. XRP is functional, embedded into the tech, and has real utility. That gives it staying power, and that kind of usefulness makes it an increasingly safe and smart choice for investors, whether they're individuals, businesses, or large institutions. To me, that seems like a pretty clear yes. Moving on. Vert's goal here is to modernize Brazil's $200 billion private credit market. How? By delivering full lifecycle traceability, compliant data handling, and real-time updates for both investors and regulators. They're combining on-chain transaction tracking with off-chain data redundancy to create a bridge between Brazil's traditional financial system and the new blockchain infrastructure. According to Gabriel Braga, Director of Digital Assets at Vert, this system allows financial events to be recorded with extreme precision right down to the finest details. That means total transparency, near-instant updates, and auditability across the board. And here's where the XRP Ledger really shines. Its low transaction costs, energy-efficient consensus mechanism, and EVM compatibility all make it ideal for smart contract automation and real-time auditing. In fact, Braga mentioned that foreign investors are increasingly demanding this kind of transparency, which XRP can deliver. So here we are. The XRP Ledger was built for exactly this. It has the tools, the efficiency, and the track record. And it turns out, the world finally cares about that. This moment, this push toward tokenizing real-world assets is exactly what many of us predicted over 5 years ago. And now, it's happening. XRP has stayed in the top 10 coins by market cap for over a decade, through all the ups and downs, including the SEC lawsuit, which, let's be honest, a lot of people thought would knock it out of the rankings altogether. But it didn't, because XRP is useful, and use case wins in the long run. But guess what? That never happened. XRP didn't get knocked out. And now we've got another major development in the same realm. Pantera Capital just made a bold statement. The tipping point for asset tokenization is fast approaching. They say it's starting to look a lot like the early days of ETFs. This is wild and honestly exciting because it ties right back into the theme we've been discussing. Tokenization of assets. Is anyone actually disputing it anymore? Back in 2017 or 2018, it might have sounded like a hot take. But now, it's just becoming common sense. Virtually every financial asset on the planet is on track to be tokenized. Why wouldn't you do it? Now, for context, Pantera Capital was the first firm in the US to launch a Bitcoin fund. Way back in 2013, it's led by Dan Morehead, a highly respected name in the space. He hasn't talked much about XRP in recent years, but I remember. Clearly back in the day, Morehead was one of the early voices predicting that XRP would be among the few long-term survivors in crypto. Whether or not he still feels that way today, we don't know, but that statement stuck. Now back to their new report. Pantera draws a parallel to 1993, when the first U.S. equity ETF launched. It hit $1 billion AUM in under a year. But the real shift wasn't in the size. It was when ETF trading volumes began to match and eventually outpace mutual fund flows. That's when the entire market structure evolved and investor behavior changed alongside it. Pantera's argument? Tokenization is heading toward that same type of inflection point. They believe it will fundamentally reshape how markets operate, and how both issuers and investors behave. Think about it. Everything stocks, mutual funds, treasuries is going digital. In fact, some of those very instruments have already been tokenized on the XRP Ledger. This isn't theoretical. It's not some futuristic idea. It's happening now. And as this shift becomes the new standard, only a few blockchains will be trusted to power this transformation. XRP is already in that circle. If adoption continues the way it has been, just this one use case alone is enough to solidify XRP as a long-term winner in the crypto space. In my opinion, it's already a done deal. XRP has proven its value, its resilience, and its real-world utility. At this point, I honestly can't imagine what could derail it. With every new development, its position in the market just becomes more concrete. And that's where we are right now. Ripple's RLUSD has just been named the #1 stablecoin by Blue Chip, earning a solid A rating, and that's barely months after its launch. That kind of recognition, right out of the gate, speaks volumes. And these next two stories? Quick updates, but definitely worth hearing. I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's really cool. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse recently made a post highlighting some major news. He said, in case you missed it, during all the regulatory action last Friday, Blue Chip ranked RLUSD as the #1 most trusted stablecoin in the market. That's a big deal. Getting that kind of recognition from Blue Chip, especially for a stablecoin that's only been around since December, is no small feat. We're talking about just over 6 months of existence. And already RLUSD is making serious waves. That's incredibly impressive. And honestly, I think the timing of Ripple launching RLUSD was spot on. The crypto space is still early enough in its evolution that launching a new stablecoin and having it actually gain traction is still possible. But fast forward a decade or two, that door is going to be mostly closed. It'll be much harder to break into the space at that point. But here's the kicker: Ripple isn't just any company. Let's be real. They've got resources most projects can only dream of. Their financial war chest is enormous. If anyone is positioned to make RLUSD a long-term success, it's Ripple. And while RLUSD is being deployed across multiple blockchains, let's not forget, it's also tokenized on the XRP Ledger. And as we've discussed, every single transaction on the XRP Ledger requires XRP to be burned. That directly ties XRP into the equation, reinforcing its importance and ensuring the ecosystem continues to thrive. So yeah, RLUSD's early success is not just exciting. It's one more piece of evidence pointing to the long-term staying power of XRP and the XRP Ledger. Here's what Blue Chip actually had to say. The highest-rated stablecoin in Blue Chip's history has never changed until now. Today, RLUSD officially takes the top spot. We're initiating coverage of RLUSD, issued by Ripple with an initial rating of A. This reflects our belief that RLUSD is among the most secure stablecoins on the market. There it is, folks. Ripple's whole strategy of playing by the rules, being the adult in the room, staying fully compliant, ticking every regulatory box, it's paying off. They're doing everything right, and it's being recognized in a big way. And honestly, this is great news for XRP holders. It reinforces the legitimacy of Ripple's ecosystem and strengthens the long-term foundation of XRP itself. And with that, let's move on to the next story. Japan has just rolled out something pretty cool. You can now earn XRP without spending any yen out of pocket. Yeah, that caught my attention too. And it made me wonder, is there anything like this in the US? Here's what's happening. For the first time, cryptocurrencies are being offered as redeemable rewards in Japan's A+ Points program. If you're an A+ credit card holder, you can now convert your points directly into crypto. XRP, Bitcoin, and Ethereum are all on the list. That officially makes A+ the first major loyalty program in Japan to allow point-to-crypto conversions. I vaguely recall hearing about similar programs somewhere else, maybe even here in the US, but it's right at the edge of my memory. So hey, if anyone watching knows of something like that, drop it in the comments. I'd love to check it out if I'm not just imagining it. But either way, this is yet another example of crypto adoption creeping into everyday life. It may seem like a small thing, but these small steps add up. It's one more sign of how far things have come, and honestly, I'd much rather have credit card rewards in crypto than in airline miles or store points any day. To me, this is just another win for XRP. It's another indicator that we're moving in the right direction. As far as I'm concerned, there's never been a better time to be an XRP holder. That said, let me make this crystal clear. I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing I say should be taken as financial advice, and you definitely shouldn't make any buying or selling decisions based on my content. I'm just a guy who loves talking about crypto. This is just a hobby I'm passionate about.